You! Yes, you! Welcome to my 52-week movie challenge!
Are you new here? You are? Well,
listen up!
You get to enjoy a movie review based on a various theme, whether it's one about a musical, my favorite film of all time, or one that's based on a true story. I watch one from a modest list, and I get to tell you all how I thought about it. It's all part of my trusty book wherein I record.
Everybody's a critic! The 52-week movie challenge!
Did I think they were good, bad, or maybe somewhere in between? Well,
watch them and find out! And while you're at it,
check out some of my other videos if you get the chance. Like this one. For now though, here's my review of a film that turns 25. So
sit down, shut up, and enjoy!
All comedies in one way or another do embrace misery for laughs. When one emphasizes laughs over narrative, however, the overall film grows too disposable, soulless, and lacks a sense of greater purpose. In the case for Happy Gilmore, the use of anger as a comedic tool lacks the character-driven empathy to really make it funny. If there is a clear beginning, middle, and end to this character arc, then we could actually get an ace in the hole.
Yeah, well, you know, that's just like, your opinion, man.
Happy Gilmore tells the story of the titular character, played by Adam Sandler, who gets kicked off the hockey team for his lack of skill, but worst of all for his vicious temperament that spurred from the death of his father. Going into Happy's adult years, he finds out that the house of his grandma, played by Frances Bay, is getting repossessed, no thanks to her mountain of unpaid taxes. After realizing he has a gift in golfing, Happy takes on the sport to use the prize money to pay off his grandma's debt. When Happy's angry personality alone makes him a celebrity sensation, one of the more snobbish players, Shooter McGavin, played by Christopher McDonald, takes notice. Going forward, a rivalry starts to form that ultimately turns the golf industry on its head. If I could describe my thoughts on Sandler's sense of humor, then I'd have to borrow an excerpt from a review of this film by my favorite film critic Roger Ebert. Quote, "The Happy Gilmore character is strange. I guess we are supposed to like him. He loves his old grandma and wins the heart of a pretty public relations lady played by Julie Bowen, who tries to teach him to control his temper. Yet, as played by Sandler, he doesn't have a pleasing personality. He seems angry when he's not supposed to be, and his habit of pounding everyone he dislikes is tiring in a PG-13 movie." Unquote. Generally putting it lightly, Sandler's comedies aren't exactly my cup of tea. They just come off as too boyish, broad, and inert for my taste. I get that every artist has their own formula, but there just came a certain point where Sandler's over-reliance on these tropes started to annoy me. Empty uses of pop songs, obligatory slapstick, a love interest with the personality of an actual trophy, smug bullies, and stupid friends. Grown-ups, thankfully, Happy Gilmore is not, and I did laugh at some points in the latter.
You're in big trouble though, pal. I eat pieces of shit like you for breakfast.
You eat pieces of shit for breakfast?
No.
Happy Gilmore definitely does have more of a cohesive 3-act structure compared to Sandler's worst, but the character of Happy comes off as simultaneously way too aggressive and passive at the same time. He's too aggressive because his anger makes him far more obnoxious than relatable, while there is a reason to Happy's temperament, it's hardly revisited if not at all. That makes the anger, an important source of the film's humor, completely baseless and disingenuous. He's also too passive because every problem that Happy encounters not only gets solved by someone close to him, but Happy doesn't change that much as a person. Whether it's the coach or his love interest, Happy restraining his temper is basically the equivalent of putting a band-aid on a gushing wound. As for the romantic angle, look at this scenario. The PR woman— okay, stop. Yes, I know that the PR woman has a name, but let's face it, this character is such a trope in Sandler's movies that she's better off with this name. Okay, moving on. He keeps saying to Happy that they're merely professionals and routinely refuses to go out with him. He keeps pestering the trophy geef until she says yes to a friendly outing. They go to the skating rink and it turns out Happy planned a surprise romantic gesture all along, complete with spotlights and a corny 80s love song blaring on the intercom. He and the trophy geef kiss and now they're dating. Whoa, wait, what? Really? After a month of knowing each other and one friendly outing later, they hook up? How does this even work? Even using movie logic can't solve this. You can't have two characters hook up after one date, let alone one friendly hangout. In fact, given the fact that Happy up and lied to Trophy Geef about this being a friendly outing, but turns this into a romantic one, I'm surprised she doesn't deck him by the end of this scene. I mean, what a creep. This doesn't work. If anything, the film Happy Gilmore just comes off as this man-child wish fulfillment. Heck, even Will Ferrell movies aren't this man-childish. Without going into further detail on why a different film handles anger better, and let's face it, it's too easy of a way out too, Sandler in Happy Gilmore pretends to understand why Misery is so funny, but I just can't relate to his character's anger because Happy ultimately comes off as an unlikable and even unpleasant person. His motivations for taking up golf are there, but his rage comes off as too disconnected from these goals to feel either humorous or relatable. It's with this I sat back and thought of many angry moments in comedy that did make me laugh. Toy Story, It's a Mad, 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 Mad World, Ghostbusters, but let's just take this one example from John Hughes' comedy classic Planes, Trains, and Automobiles. In it, Steve Martin's Neil Page races to get back home to his family in time for Thanksgiving. He runs into John Candy's Del Griffith along the way as the two have to work together to get back home. As for how comedy implements anger well, take the scene where Neil angrily demands a car after his has been inconveniently towed.
Welcome to Marathon. May I help you?
Yes.
How may I help you?
You can start by wiping that fucking dumbass smile off your rosy fucking cheeks.
Then you can give me a fucking automobile, a fucking Datsun, a fucking Toyota, a fucking Mustang, a fucking Buick, 4 fucking wheels and a seat.
I really don't care for the way you're speaking to me.
And I really don't care for the way your company left me in the middle of fucking nowhere with fucking keys to a fucking car that isn't fucking there. And I really didn't care to fucking walk down a fucking highway and across a fucking runway to get back here to have you smile in my fucking face. I want a fucking car right fucking now.
I can totally relate to Neil's character because who hasn't been or lived through a situation like this? On top of that, his anger comes from not being able to get home to his family soon enough, and this goal alone makes me want to root for him to get there even more. It was then I realized what was missing from Happy Gilmore's sense of humor. Truth.
You can't handle the truth!
Yes, misery still plays as an important factor in almost all comedy, but this semblance of such keeps the situation relatable. In Happy Gilmore, the death of his father doesn't echo throughout the plot enough, so it doesn't make me connect to Happy's anger as strongly as it should. If Happy doesn't get hung up over his father's death, then why should I? On top of that, how am I supposed to relate to a guy who physically hurts people when he can't control such? How am I supposed to relate to a guy who gets angry for anger's sake? If his anger stemmed from struggling to save his grandmother, it'd make a little more sense, but this is something Happy deals with even before the main conflict takes place. Anger again in Happy Gilmore just feels like a contrived, underdeveloped, and mean-spirited comedic device. This makes the Happy place feel all the more cheap and tacked on. Something that causes this immense level of vitriol seems way too prominent to be written off as goofy slapstick. Happy starts off as an angry and violent person and ends up as a slightly less angry and violent person. So he's supposed to be like us? Well, what does that pertain to the overall message of the film? As long as there's a smoking hot babe and a magical black guy as your golf course to curb your anger issues, you don't have to take responsibility for your own personal insecurities to grow into a more emotionally responsible adult? Yikes. See what I mean? This is the general problem I have with Sandler's comedies. His main characters are so pathetic, immature, and childish, yet that broad boyhood into which he taps comes off as too self-indulgent and rose-tinted to feel relatable. Instead of having his characters go through some kind of change or grow up figuratively or literally or hell know when to embrace boyhood and when to take on the positively masculine identity, it instead insists on this perpetual state of man-childishness that Sandler celebrates, which serves as that one infuriating crux of why he just turns me off. Overall, the biggest crime that I can say about Happy Gilmore is that it's just not that funny. As a comedic actor, Sandler just comes across as too mean-spirited, charmless, and unfeeling to follow all the way to the end. I'd say I hope he gets better, but I'm so beyond his target demographic that I could honestly care less about what he does next, for the most part. On a scale of 1 to 10, Happy Gilmore is definitely below par. So what did you think of Happy Gilmore? Have you seen it? Also, what's your favorite Adam Sandler performance? As visceral as I thought he was in Uncut Gems, my go-to is Punch Drunk Love. Even though it checks off all the boxes of an Adam Sandler comedy, director Paul Thomas Anderson approaches these agonizing tropes with otherworldly direction. He embraces and sympathizes with the anger and quirkiness of Sandler's protagonists, rather than insist that these unhinged, damaged, and immature characters are just happy-go-lucky goofballs. If you liked what you've seen, let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Give this video a like and share, hit that subscribe button, and ring the bell so you'll know when I post my future videos. You can also find me on Twitter and Instagram at FilmGeekDave, as well as my Letterboxd account for all the other films I watch in my free time. That's all for today, and I'll see you next time when I review a film set during my favorite time period.
America!